Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to continue talking about the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series, and we're going to tackle more than 4 issues this time. Let's do 6. Okay, all of these are written by Michael Stackpole. At this point, he is, writing the rest of the series on his own. So, let's begin with issues 26 and 27. Now, in this one, Fales basically has flipped sides. It's spoilers. I have to talk about it because this is what the big story is. He's unhappy with the Imperials, the Empire. It's not what it used to be. Wedge has kind of helped him out, say, hey, you need to join the rebellion, so he's flying with them now. And of course, at this moment, I'm pretty sure Stackpole has heard back from the fans over the past few months how we absolutely loved the character Baron Fales. So Baron Fales is going to be in this series until the end. I mean, he's still an integral part because he's such a great and interesting character. Now, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is Fales' connection to Wedge Antilles. It turns out that Baron Fales married Wedge Antilles' sister. And the sister, I can't remember her name now, it's like Starfire or something like that, but she is a actress. She was a famous actress. And of course she would marry a famous, Imperial fighter pilot. So it was like an elite hookup there, 2 elites appreciating each other and getting married. So that's where they share that connection. And that's got to be awkward for Wedge Antilles, right? His sister's dating the guy that he's trying to kill in dogfights earlier, but now they're on the same side. Would have made Life Day gatherings a little awkward, don't you think? So moving on to the next story arc, which is issues 28 through 31. In these issues, it brings back a character that we've seen before. I didn't mention her earlier, but now she's becoming a bigger villain, I guess, at this point, and that is Moff Tavia. At 16 years old, she is the youngest Moff in the Empire. And you're thinking, wait a minute, why is a 16-year-old girl, a Moff? Well, to be honest, her husband died. Her husband was a Moff, and he married a 16-year-old. It's kind of weird. His wife died, so he decided to marry the 16-year-old. So anyway, she's a Moff, and she's an okay character. I know what they were trying to do, something unique, something different, twisted a little bit. A young girl as a Moff who's very evil and wicked and, wanting to get her way. But it comes across a little unbelievable. At 16, I've seen some mature 16-year-olds, but would people underneath her take her seriously? And that's the thing. I mean, her husband was the big cheese, and so she took his place. I guess everyone's too cowardly. But this is the Empire, man. We're all about backstabbing. So it's kind of weird how she's kept her power this long. But either way, Isana Sard is in it, so you're starting to see those connections that Michael Stackpole promised, because we already know who Sard is. We've seen her before, and we see her in the comic book now. We're like, So she's starting to get entangled within the Rogue Squadron series. The Winter actually makes an appearance, Leia's best friend, who we get to hear about in the Timothy Zahn trilogy. And Winter doesn't get much love, either in the comic books or the novels, really. She's just kind of I say forgotten character, not forgotten, everyone knows who she is, but just not a center stage character. And eventually, of course, she's going to end up with Tycho, and so, they're already meeting, and, that relationship could be blossoming there. But it's neat to see some of these characters that were in the books come to the comic books. And I think it was the first time, well, I may be wrong on this, but I think it was the first time I remember seeing someone from a novel. They got introduced in a novel, and now they're in a comic book. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So again, there's some connections. Now, to be honest, it shouldn't surprise me, because Stackpole and Zahn really became friends at one time, and connected a lot of their stories together. I mean, they were best buds. And it's kind of weird because Timothy Zahn didn't want to play in anyone else's sandbox. He wanted his own little individual sandbox, and a lot of people will maybe remember this back in the day, but he really talked down to every other author in Bantam. Like, they were nothing. His books were the best. They were second rate. You know, and a lot of people were going, yeah, your books were the best, Zon. He's like, yeah, I was the best. And he kind of had a little bit of an ego back then. I mean, it got deflated now to where he's friends with all the authors there. But there was a time when he would make snide comments and laugh about how silly other storylines were, and they were inferior to his original trilogy. But Stackpole very early on gained his respect somehow and gained his friendship, and they started promoting their characters and having great stories, and to be honest, it was great stuff that they wrote together too, so I'm not complaining. But anyway, overall, the series run is really good. Like I said, the best it ever got in my opinion was issue 25, but the series is still interesting because now we have things moving along, pieces are starting to form up, and the end is coming. But I'll talk about that in another video. See you then.